Good afternoon, everyone. BC here. Hope you're experiencing a wonderful Tuesday here. I'm in Southern California, which is nice, trying this new equipment here because some people on YouTube say they can't quite hear my voice clearly. So I said, let me try something different. I use a microphone to make things happen. Well, welcome to a new episode of the Bisimoto Tech2sday, episode 146. I'm not surrounded by electric 935s. Instead, I have three center seat Porsches here that we had put together. My good team, Sam, Duran, myself, Eddie, Lindsay, Albert, we all got these beautiful cars together, and I want to talk about how amazing it is to drive center seats. Center seat, oh my God, dope. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate that indeed. And this red one here is the very first one. It was a prototype, proof of concept. Started its life as a 986 Porsche Boxster. We have a Cayman-esque roof on it, which is made of carbon fiber, has a 997 front end, which is pretty cool, from a 911, and it is the most amazing thing I've ever driven. It came to light primarily because I had the opportunity, thanks to Porsche, thank you guys at Porsche for allowing me to drive a variety of Porsches on the track. I think as far back as 2016, I believe it was. Yes, 2016. They rented out the raceway in Fontana, not too far away from here, and we had the opportunity to drive the Turbo S 911, the Cayenne Turbo, the Panamera Turbo, Cayman R, and there was something else we had there that wasn't too exciting. But anyway, of all the cars there, of course the fastest was the 911 Turbo S. That was just amazing around the California Speedway. But then the Cayman R was amazing. It shifted beautifully with that R PDK setup. It had the opportunity to give this well-balanced feel, which is amazing. And that being said, it was really shocking. The handling was unlike anything else. I know I was dragging as well at Fontana at DR2K. And what had happened was I experienced this opportunity where I felt that with the handling of the Cayman and the power of the Turbo S, it would be, dare I say, the most perfect Porsche? The perfect Porsche. So I'm like, ooh, how can we make this happen, right? So I got to work, and what I decided to do is I thought about the most tunable center seat, or mid-drive, I should say, mid-drive vehicle, and the 987 Cayman S. So I picked up a Cayman S from Texas, sight unseen, had it shipped here, and I went to town, and hence the twin turbo setup you saw in the gray Cayman. I now gave it 480 wheel horsepower, and it was perfect. It felt like the most perfect Porsche. Well balanced, very forgiving, mid-engine, AC, power steering, going to the track, having the front blast, shooting flames. It was perfect. AMG said, would you ever twin turbo a GT3, GT3 RS? I would have a client to request that of us. So it is possible. Porsche fuel systems are quite robust. It allows a lot of opportunity. So I would do that, but I have not had the opportunity to explore that for individuals. One thing I do have a bit of a challenge with, and it's something I work with my friends on Cobb in exploring, is many times when you convert naturally aspirated engines to turbocharging using the factory ECU, there are very few opportunities for fail-safes, like boost cut or some kind of cool closed-loop function for boost control. It's just something you cannot explore. And that's why I'm a huge advocate of standalones like Infinity in those setups, like AM Infinity. But it's something that I have no objection doing. You just haven't had the client to ask us for that, So there's something else I want to talk to you guys about, which is pretty interesting, Stop with this electric car. We want voot, 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 says God, hello, Vatanas. Unfortunately, I cannot. And guys, I'll tell you why. Just like you, I was a die-hard petrol head. I had the opportunity to explore high RPM, low displacement engines. I derive pleasure from building natural aspirated cars to spank on turbo cars. When I moved to turbocharging, I would love flames and all this stuff, and I was anti-EV. I thought it was stupid. I thought it was meant for individuals who hug trees or wore hemp sandals or for just hippies. I could care less about it, right? But I noticed our partners in the OEMs started going towards that technology. Now, the hybrids may be able to tickle your, or wet your whistle, I should say, or tickle your fancy, like what we talked about a moment ago with the NSX, where it combines a little bit of two. But there's something about the raw power and excitement of an EV, a performance EV, not more of a EV that allows you for transportation or mobility, but just performance EV. The torque is unlike anything I feel. This car on my chest, I mean, I feel it in my chest when I launch. It's just the most amazing thing ever. And I'm an enthusiast first, an engineer second, and as an enthusiast, you cannot deny the acceleration. And it has its own noise. It sounds like this crazy whine and weird. It's just, I mean, as a matter of fact, something else I'll do probably later on today, in addition to sharing what Janelle's thoughts were on our center seat Porsche, I'm going to put up a video of Ford racing that my friends at AEM EV just posted recently, and it's a drag race of this Ford Mustang. And just listen to the launch control of this thing. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds amazing. And no petrol engine can even mimic that. So I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I'm telling you guys, it's really a blessing in disguise. Any suggestions for a mechanical engineer student wanting to work in the auto industry as Noah Kopak? Well, there's one thing that happens is really to intern. Whether it's with a major OEM, which is very hard to get into those, right? Or a facility like ours, you know. A lot of our interns have gone to companies like General Atomics, which is in more, I would say, military aviation and aerospace. Hyundai loves our interns. So we had like 4 interns go to America and Hyundai, which is great. So the one way to get your foot in the door is to get into a company and offer, like, you know, volunteer your time. It's actually, you know, I foresee, I'm not joking, guys, one day people will pay to intern in facilities. I mean it, because the amount of exposure, the amount of learning that you can get, there's a value to that. The amount of contacts that you can be exposed to by working in a facility like that is amazing. I mean, nothing stops anyone from calling companies like a Haltech or an AEM or like a K&N and just talk to someone in HR to see if you can intern there for free. It doesn't matter if you're in the warehouse, it doesn't matter if you're in engineering or design, just offer your services, learn, and you never know. If you do a smashing job, those companies absorb you. And many times here, we have OEM partners who come by and see one of our individuals, like, that person is fantastic. Can we please absorb into our organization? And we say, sure, go ahead, you have a blessing. And they get absorbed and end up being like big wigs in the companies. I'm telling you, it's a great thing, you know? I would if you offer, yeah, we offer internships all the time. Absolutely, we do. Tesla Holyfield says, they had a lot of EV cars this past weekend at Pikes Peak. Hill Climb predict they will soon break all the records just like the Volkswagen IDR. And yes, it is, because you know the cool thing? All the things that really, a majority of things that quail, that challenge internal combustion engines are a bane to EVs. For example, heat. Whether it's natural aspirated or turbocharged, forced induction, nitrous, whatever the case may be, heat is the enemy of performance for for internal combustion engines. So as they ingest warm air that has less molecules of oxygen together, it doesn't create that much power, so it hurts it. EVs could care less. As a matter of fact, when it gets warmer, and the batteries are near optimum temperature, closest to, let's say, 40 to 45 degrees Celsius, the batteries really put out great power. So it loves the warmth to some extent, within reason. It doesn't want to be in 60 degrees Celsius, but in the 40s, it's nice. Then, elevation. Of course, we've all driven our cars, our trucks up mountains, and it gets slower and slower. For those of you in SoCal that remember LACR, Los Angeles County Raceway in Palmdale, we hated racing there, right? Because it was just so horrible. We lose half a second to, or sometimes a second depending on the conditions because of elevation. Guess what? What you run here with an EV at sea level, at Palmdale run the same time because it could care less about elevation. Kind of cool, right? So that being said, based upon those 2 major attributes, you have things like the Volkswagen IDR who can just break all records for Pikes Peak no matter what kind of vehicle it is, and more cars keep doing it. I'm telling you, the future is bright. Nothing to block at. I was one of those guys. It's good to embrace it. It's great, you know? I want to put an electric motor in a rear tire in a front-wheel drive. That's a good idea, absolutely. And very soon, Gad, yeah, you're turning around, huh? Very soon, our friends at AEM will have the capability for you to do that, you know? Do you know when the Porsche Hub T-shirt will restock? Well, all I have in stock now are extra larges, right? So should be later this week, hopefully. Send me an email at sales@bisimoto.com. And then when they're back in stock, I'll be more than happy to give you a ring or send you an email to you so you can probably get access to it, you know? Yeah, it has a transaxle, absolutely. That's why I mentioned earlier, they're very well balanced. Not bad at all, you know? Oh, Ali's planning to buy that 4. I think you'll have a lot of fun with that, you know? It has, if you look at the quality of the build, especially if you find a clean one, the quality of the build is quite nice. It really is a nice build. Those cars are pretty cool. And it's just a shame that they're underappreciated. It's just like a 914. I have a 1976 2.0 here. Man, people don't appreciate this car. It's amazing. It's really cool. It's really cool. I like it. Okay, let's see here. You guys are so wonderful today. What do you see the price of an EV block that could replace the B18 home motor? The price of an EV block. Interesting way of describing it. Well, let's talk about the options you have. So you have options where you can keep your factory transmission or gearbox, where there are companies like, what's a good one? Trying to think of one that's very nice. Netgain. Netgain has these motors that are pretty nice. They are cylindrical in size, about the length of a 4-cylinder, a small 4, like a D series length. Pretty heavy though, don't let the size fool you. They put out about 120 horsepower on the high end and about 180 pound-foot of torque, which is pretty nice and torquey. So that combined with a gearbox can give you some very nice opportunities. So it would be superior definitely to that which you may see in a B16 in terms of acceleration, or a D series definitely by far. But my favorite, as in terms of something that you can easily add on, that's fairly cost effective, and you can get from dismantlers and repurposing companies, is the Tesla drive units, because it has integrated motor, inverter, and transaxle, which is great, right? So depending on what chassis you're on, the larger chassis you can probably fit a large drive unit. It'd be easy to fit a smaller drive unit, and it has 3 motor mounts. I think you're talking about mounts Huckleberry Finn, and it has 3 mounts that you can be able to grab onto to allow for a very nice, robust installation. The motors can hover in, right now in dismantlers, you can find base units in the upper 2,000 range. You can find probably sport units closer to 4,000 or 5,000 depending on where you get it. You can find some cheaper ones, but most of the time you have no idea what you're getting. But from reputable sources, they get a little more expensive. But the biggest expense, in my opinion, is in the batteries. So to be able to have the batteries that can allow you to have the density that you need to give you decent range and performance, they can be very expensive, especially if you're buying them new. Now, you can repurpose some of the more cost-effective ones from, let's say, the Chevy Volt, but also because of how the bricks sit, they are not as modular to install into chassis, you know? And even though those cells are made by LG Chem, they're just put together a certain way for GM to make it easier for them. You also have opportunities with the Chevy Bolt. You can buy brand new packs from the dealership for $15,000, $16,000. So there are many options out there, but there are also some more options that are coming out very soon that are very modular in nature that can allow you to move things around very nicely. But expect to spend, at least in batteries and battery management, close to $20,000. Now, you may say, wow, BC, that's a lot of money, right? But think about our friends who do sport front-wheel drive cars, who want to run, let's say, 8s. They spend $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 in their Civics just to hit 8s, maybe 7s. Well, guess what? You can probably do that with an EV setup and not spend as much, and definitely not have the maintenance or breakdowns that you see with petrol engines, or the blow-ups, or throwing rods, no gaskets, no blazing turbos. It's pretty interesting, you know? Chemist is asking, I like your name, Chemist. That's pretty nice. KH3 Mist. Thoughts on rolling anti-lag? I heard people installing them, but they feel like they don't really use them. Yeah, a lot of people install them. So here's the cool thing about rolling anti-lag. You know how people do a lot of rolling runs, or Texas miles, or you go to airport airstrips and you do things like no-fly zone. I think 1320 does some few things from time to time. They go to Coalinga to do some stuff. Anyway, rolling anti-lag, as the name implies, is where you build boost to put lag at bay while you're driving, while you're rolling. And let's say that you have a very large turbo. Let's say you're running a 72mm turbo on a Porsche 911. Pretty big, right? But you can make a lot of power with that, but you have no bottom end whatsoever. You can be cruising at 40 miles an hour in 3rd gear and getting ready to run somewhere. You floor it, and it's going to take time to build boost. But if you do a rolling anti-lag, which means you initiate in a condition where you retard timing, add a little bit of fuel, you can now combust inside the turbine and spool that turbo quickly. So you're now building at rest, dare I say 10, 15, 20 psi while rolling, and then when you press down on the gas, you immediately have an explosive launch and car's out. So it's a really good thing to do. Hard on turbos, hard on components, hard on exhaust valves, but it's an amazing concept and works extremely well. So you see some of the rolling races that people have in Mexico, you see them shooting flames, they stay, right? And they take off. That's rolling anti-lag, which is pretty cool. What is the importance of getting a tune when going from a top mount intercooler to a front mount intercooler, i.e. turbo Subaru? Yes, there is a huge, so I'll give you one simple concept that can probably allow you to wrap your head around that very nicely. Turbocharged cars are just naturally aspirated setups that are pressurized. Now, what do you mean by that, BC? As you and I sit here, you may be sitting, you may be standing, you may be laying, whichever the case may be, you are breathing in 14.7 psi of boost. You may not know that, but actually, we're at 1 atmosphere, ideally. If you're not, unless you're in Utah, somewhere, or Kilimanjaro. But we're sitting here, we're breathing in. The reason why our lungs can expand, the reason why we have this nice compression on our skin, is because we are sitting at pressure, at atmospheric pressure. So, when we're naturally aspirated, it's actually ingesting much easier because it is at atmospheric pressure. So that being said, thank you so much, Efren Porsche. I miss you, Efren. You need to come by. I need to talk to you. Anyway, the reason why we are able to play around with intake lengths and exhaust lengths and get torque and power, those concepts also exist in turbocharging. Try yourself. Run a long tube or a long runner manifold on your turbo project. Switch out to a short runner and see what happens. Your bottom torque goes away. You're still boosting, you're still forcing air in, but it's just not as efficient as before, especially in low RPMs, because those same concepts apply. So, moving from a top mount to a mid mount to a low mount to a long tube, short tube, the exhaust manifold design and length do play a role into your tuning. And where it demands fuel before will be different from where it demands fuel afterwards. So yes, it's important to tune it. So think of it in terms of natural aspiration and that you're just pressurizing it, and that'll make more sense to you. Intercooler for the Veloster N, says Espedan, is so great, you said that. Just finalized on the CAD design last night. I'm going to do a post about that soon, so very soon, all of you Veloster N heads are going to have an intercooler that is the most advanced, most amazing intercooler ever. We were able to stuff a whole lot of intercooler in a very small space. The density, the fin density is amazing. The bottom plate is superb. The ends are just, the castings are just beautiful. It bolts in, no cutting of the car whatsoever, no modifying, no throwing away the crash bar. It's literally a plug-and-play affair. And the deltas are nowhere near 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what I was experiencing in a prototype. It's great. You'll love it, you know? Connection sounds cool. The Chevy Volt engine can put out 120 kilowatts electrical load. Nice, very nice indeed. Does it require, no crash bar at all. You don't remove anything at all, sir. Even to install it, you don't remove it. It's pretty cool. You know, in the United States, the crash standards are quite strict, and we want to maintain that. So there's nothing, if anything, they'll enhance it. It's a pretty nice, pretty robust intercooler. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. Does the shop do frame fabrication for EV conversions? Yes, we do. We do that in-house here, and if we're packed in-house here, we have another facility, a little group of friends of ours that can help out. Who's in Riverside? By all means, Sam is really good. How complicated was it building an EV? On the 30,000 foot level, not very complicated, but it became complicated for me because it was shared with me with such ease. It's a lot of wiring. Give you a perfect example. My setup has two 403 volt large packs consisting of 96 cells in each pack. And each of those 96 cells have a positive and a negative. Each of those 96 packs have a division of 6 battery modules, and each of those battery modules have 2 thermistors in each one. I have to wire by hand each and every one of those cells and each and every one of those thermistors to go to a battery management system being an Orion. I use Orion BMS, Orion 2 BMS. It's a lot of wiring, a lot of crimping. My hand was like, it was pretty crazy, you know? So yes, it's quite involved in terms of the sheer labor. And engineering, you have to be very safe. This is dangerous stuff. And I'm constantly learning. And, but if you are used to doing crazy projects, it's not too crazy. If you're used to just hands-on little stuff, it's really a big, gargantuan task to do that, you know? So that being said, guys, you see this? My thing is turning red now. That means my time is up. AJ, that's a great question. Let's talk about that next week, by all means. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. This will be up here on Instagram indefinitely on my stories. And for those of you on YouTube, I'll have a condensed version where we cut a lot of things out, but get the nice juicy stuff and put there. So if you want to see that, subscribe to the Bisimoto YouTube page. And for those listening on the podcast networks, we'll have that on your favorite podcast applications, whether it's Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, you name it, Podbean. We're there. Just search for Bisimoto, Bisimoto. We'll make it happen. Guys, I'll put this shirt up ASAP so you guys can place some orders and we'll get it to you. In the meantime, thank you so much. Have a great day. Stay safe. See you soon. Take care, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.